and welcome to the Mindful Messenger Show, brought to you by the Liberty Beacon Media Project. My name is Amanda Johnson, and today I'm talking to Renée Cabourne about mindful money and moving on. Renée Cabourne, CFP, founder of Money Savvy Woman, is an inspirational speaker, money coach, advisor, and author who uses her passion and expertise to help clients transform their financial confusion and struggle into a clear purpose and relationship with money. How good does that sound? Her ability to empower clients to get out of their own way financially enables them to succeed, achieve, and maintain satisfying results generally within a few months. She's also a wife, sister, and friend who understands the importance of living your purpose while balancing it with loving those that make life meaningful, enjoyable, and abundant. Welcome, Renée.
Hey. Hi, everyone. Hi, Amanda.
Hi, I'm so glad you're here. It's really fun to share everyone that I've been working with over the years and learning from over the years with this audience. And I've been on such a fun journey with you, witnessing your message, watching you give birth to your message and watching what it's turned into. And so I'm really excited to share that with the audience today, because I think that the speaker, author, coach industry puts a lot of messaging out there that keeps people stuck. And I feel like I've watched you kind of shrug a lot of it off and do your own thing. And I really appreciate that. I want to empower the people watching to do the same thing.
Oh, it feels so much better, let me tell you.
Right?
It really does.
I know. But it's been a journey to get you there, for you to actually get there and own it. So that's what I want to share today. So let's start at the beginning. When did it happen? Where were you when you were like, oh my gosh, I have a message to share with the world? What came about?
Well, I knew I wanted to share the message, my financial message, all my lessons and all of that for life. I knew I wanted to share that all along because I was tired of the fact that I felt my industry was overcomplicating things. But it wasn't until one of my students literally begged me for a step-by-step guide that the aha went on. But that went on well before I ever pulled the trigger and had the aha that made me write the book.
Okay. So tell me about that. What time frame was it, like, between inspiration and pulling the trigger?
I would say the inspiration probably came in 2011 when I was in the classroom. And Stephanie, my student, who I put out there in the Facebook world, was my impetus for it. She just, after taking all my classes, still needed a step-by-step guide, which I thought, she's all over the place. She's, got all these roles to fulfill in her life, and she knows, but she can't tie it all together. So that's that. But then I was in an accident, a car accident, and I had time on my hands, and I thought I should write the book now. And that's what pulled the trigger on writing the book, was I thought I was going to write it in recovery. But I don't know, I'm sure you remember this, but I actually started writing a different book, which was for children, which was a total disaster. It was horrible. And that put me back on my heels, where I was just like, okay, so maybe I'm not meant to write for children. So now what do I do? And then I thought, well, Stephanie's book, that's what I should write. So that's kind of how I had the aha to write the book. Long answer to your brief question.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, for the audience, knowing that you were not just a financial advisor, but that you were a teacher, you were in the education system trying to teach financial literacy, not just let me show you what to do and how to do all this. It was like, let me show you how to own your wealth and figure that out and build it on your own.
How to manage on your own, knowing and having the confidence to know that you're managing properly. Yeah. That was pretty much it. And everybody's, it's kind of like, everybody's journey is unique. So you just can't get up there and say, here's the blanket rules, even though you can on a very superficial level, because you have to do your own homework to drill down to what's right for you. Mm-hmm. And that's why advisors are advisors, and people can be if they just learn the basic steps and then are true to themselves.
Yeah. So what were some of the challenges that came up? You had this idea to write a book, maybe write a children's book. Like, first, it sounds like there was an audience problem at first.
Well, I couldn't write for children. I was too technical. I was a technician. I was a professor. Remember, that was my first
Mhm.
obstacle, was getting over my own voice. You know, it's like I had to change the perspective and the point of view of my voice to remember, okay, you're talking to children now. You're not talking to adolescents or errant adults, frankly. You know, so I I could probably write that book now a lot better, you know, but at the time it was foreign. I was trying to learn another language, and I just went no. With all the complications of having a brain injury, which I didn't mention that, but yeah, um, I could not fathom how I was going to pull it off, but I could write this sweet little baby.
Yes, you did.
I'm still so very proud of this. This is
Could
this
be.
is what I did. Yeah.
It's an amazing book. It's an amazing book. And I want to talk a little bit about the journey of writing through that because um, you know, there is something that I've watched over and over, and eventually people will maybe get tired of hearing me say this, but you know, when people go back and start to work on writing their books or sharing their stories, you know, there is this point where they kind of push on a button, a story button.
Don't you mean like a bomb?
It's like pulling a pin and throwing the grenade and watching, you know, sometimes it feels like that. And so I want to talk a little bit about like, because you were really, I mean, when I met you, I think in 2007. So by the time we were working together, you were a very different person because of that.
Oh yeah.
You know, you were like, man, you were type A to the max, right? Like,
Yeah, I've been.
be a
If I
certain
can,
way.
yeah, a tour de force is what I've been told.
Tour de
For trying to be nice.
Force of nature. You
Yeah,
were.
there we go.
You were. And so it was funny. It was amazing when I met up with you again because we didn't see each other for a while and I was like, wow, what happened? And you'd had this experience with the car accident that kind of made it hard for you to hang out on that side of the brain for too long. That one that was like all about structure
Yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
which affected your ability to write again and really figure out things. So what were some of the frustrations for you as you were getting through the process of writing the book?
Well, okay. So let's talk just a little bit about the brain injury because it scrambled all of my. Oh God, it just flew out of my head. See, brain injury, but organizational skills. So I would be writing things that I thought were completely in sequence, and then I'd get the rewrites. That was frustrating to realize I was off in another world. But it was also hard just dealing with the emotions of writing the stories. I mean, I was already dealing with this other accident issue in recovery, but then on top of it, I'm like dredging up things that really formed who I was. And that set me back on my heels. I think, well, you know, you were there. It took me a year to write chapter 3, which is the crux of why we have to be self-empowered, why, you know, kind of like we have to be our own financial advocates. If we don't know exactly what to do, we need to know enough to keep ourselves out of trouble with the people we entrust. So that chapter 3 took me a full year because it was so emotionally painful to even retell the story in its accuracy, let alone put it out there for the world to see, and then to have that backlash, whiplash, panic of, oh my God, my family's reading this, and now I'm disowned.
Yeah.
Which never happened, by the way.
Right.
Let me just say this. The family never read the book. I don't even know if they know the book exists, which is so perfect because it's, again, another metaphor for my life. But in a good way. It's like, you know what? The people who are meant to read it are reading it, and the ones that are not don't even know it exists. And talk about, you know, God's hand in all of this. My message is out there, and it's raw. It's there. So,
yeah. Well, and
that was hard.
That's a real consideration for people. I mean, half the time, you know, people won't start writing the book because they know that they have to talk about characters. And either they still have a bad relationship with those characters.
Yep.
Or they've gotten to a good point with the characters and they don't want to dredge all that stuff up and create an imbalance again. But what I found is that through the process of writing, and I believe this happened for you too, like there's a there's a certain amount of understanding about the characters that comes when you have to write about them, and a certain amount of ownership of your part in it and how you like took what they did and ran with it hard, you know, and it changes the way that the energy hits the page. And so even if they did read it, you know, it's like, well,
yeah, it's not their story. It's mine, you know. So I don't know. It just, I was going to say something and it flew out of my head, but the point was, oh yeah, now I remember. Through rewriting the story, I somehow gained a perspective of who, you know, the story was about my father, who my father was. And I wound up with an empathy and a compassion I never had before, because it had always been, to say veiled or shrouded is really underwriting it, because it was more like armor around, you know, he will not ever get to me again. That all changed, because all of a sudden now things kind of clicked where I thought, I think I know what happened here. And it was not malicious. It felt malicious, but it wasn't. But it took a full year to get through that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just think I think that's one of the reasons why we feel inspired to write the books in the first place, is because when you have to go back there and look at the other characters, we get to build compassion and empathy. And like, if we stay with it, right, and don't just shut the thing down and run away.
Right.
You know, I mean, we get the opportunity for a new perspective on our story, because when we go there, it's like, he did this and then he did this, and it was all like, we have the whole story, but when we go back and we have to start filling in the details.
Yeah.
Maybe that wasn't the only story. Maybe he did do some of this, like he obviously did this, but what if he did it with a different intention, or because he was scared? Like, you start to see these people as other scared adults, because now you understand them a little bit better.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. That
was. Then after that realization, that aha of, oh my gosh, the story that I've like been telling myself, here I am writing a book about a story, and here I realize that I've written the story completely, well, I don't want to say skewed, but only from my perspective. I mean, it was just so narrow. And then all of a sudden, once I widened the lens and saw what could possibly go on, all of a sudden I loved my father. And boom, the book, I wrote the rest of the book in not even 90 days, 60 days, I think.
It was so fast.
I think it was done in 120 from that point.
Yep.
Yeah, because we pushed for that one deadline. Oh my God. But yeah, I mean, becoming an author really was the beginning of my I want to say self-care journey. I mean, I started really looking at myself and who I was, because with the accident, I kind of had a personality change. Things didn't go back the way they were before. And that took acceptance. But, you know, just being true to what makes me happy now, getting my message out, you know, to people who need it. It isn't all about money anymore for me. Right now, it's just about being who you are, and know that you're loved, know that you're perfect the way you are. Just be comfortable in your own skin and do what it is that you feel you need to do, and figure out the rest in the next 10 minutes. Don't worry about, you know, anything beyond that, if that's where you're at.
Yeah, which is a wild thing for us to have gotten to, right? Because
are you kidding me?
I was thinking this morning while I was getting ready about your journey and even just the parts that I saw. I know there was a lot going on in the background too. And I was thinking about how important it is for people to hear this part, that sometimes the book happens to help you heal something that needs to be healed so that you can just move on. Sometimes it happens so that you can take that message and run with it and grow and scale a brand that's going to totally change the world. And the thing is that if you think it's this, but it's actually this, or a combination of both, you can have a really hard time. I mean,
yes.
How many people did we watch like buy into big programs to go and build their business? And we did it too, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, I was one of those.
Yeah. And so, you know, I think it's one of those things where I think if people would just stay really close to this, and the writing gives you the ability to stay connected to that, then you can make decisions that are more in alignment, like you said, with what you actually want to do. Because I watched you, like, when I met you, you're about finance. Like, all I knew about you was finance. Like, that was it, right? Then we started
finance and California law, California state law.
Yeah.
That was it. That was my whole focus.
And then I started to get to know you, and I was like, this lady loves her fashion.
Yeah.
This lady loves her food. This lady loves fun, and a whole myriad of other things. But it was so cool to watch you kind of go through this whole process and figure out, like, what does it look like? So let's talk a little bit about the money piece, because I know that this has been really, really important for you. And you and I both know, like, we're just talking about the the big programs that are out there. Some of them are really good, for the people who are ready and good qualified fits for that, man, it really works. But one of the things that I know we've talked about a lot over the years is how people, especially messengers, like, you have this message, it can change lives. You kind of will do anything to get it into the people who are feeling the pain that you felt at one time, right?
Yeah.
So what is your best advice for messengers who are out there and who are, like, running through those programs and spending? I mean, how many people come to me and are like, I emptied my 401k and I'm $100,000 in debt, and like, these are real conversations. Like, they can't get the help they actually need. So help them, Renee. Tell us.
Okay, well, understand. I'm afraid to put a number on how much I've spent on programs, because if my husband hears it, I might get divorced. But I will say this: many of them were beautiful programs that I changed my life. Many of them, to the point where I was like, yes, now I know where, now I know what I want to say, what I want to do, and how. Because for me, that was always the question: how am I going to do this? How, I got to know what I'm going to do. I got to have a plan, because I'm a planner, right? Okay. Let me just say, life has a way of making it happen the way it's meant to happen. And any plan that you put in place is going to change. So, some of these programs where they're like, if you do this, then you'll get that. Think really hard about those things. Think about what you really need. Because if you have a good support group around you, you can take those issues to them and they can give you the answers you need. Because in many cases, we're just looking for someone to support us. So to pay for support that you don't necessarily need is a money waster. So I just want to say that right off the bat. I definitely believe in coaching. Absolutely. Because you've got to have someone that you can reach out to who's going to pull you up. You have to have that. But the expectation of balance is you're also going to take the other hand and pull someone up with you. That's one of the things I think as women, some of us get it and some of us don't. So I think, without getting into, actual finances, that's really my financial advice: is be astute, think, don't get sold.
What about the mindset piece with the finances? Like, what are some of those mindset pieces that you help people work through that will help people to make better decisions about these programs? Like, not just, are they aligned with, are they actually going to give me the type of support that I really need and getting connected to that? But what about the process of figuring out the money mindset around that? Because, I mean, you kind of like throw everything in and then go, oh, what about, there's all of these big expansions and contractions that happen with the money. I just had a client like jump in, like, deep dive, right? And she was like, this is what I'm going to do. And she made the list and I want the proposal. And then I watched this whole contraction happen around her finances. And it's like, so about that money mindset, what do you recommend where do we need to change our thinking?
Okay. We have to be our own best advocates, and that means we have to be brave enough and disciplined enough to say, hey, I need to reset. I need to reset where I'm at. Because if you're not thinking positively about your money and you're thinking about shoulda, coulda, woulda, any of those things, and someone that you're going to speak with for support is talking to you about shoulda, coulda, woulda, these are the wrong people. You need to ask yourself questions. What is it that I really want that is going to make me feel happy inside? And then when you start putting your money and aligning your spending and your saving with that, things start to shift. But it's this whole supposed to. I'm supposed to give this. I'm supposed to do that. I've got my kids. I'm supposed to do this. No, you're not supposed to do anything that you really don't feel good about doing. You need to feel good about what you're doing with your money, how you're spending it, and how you're not spending it. And yes, there are things that you need to address just as a responsible adult, which is what's going to happen in retirement, which I know people just want to cringe. I'm going to work till I drop dead. Well, okay, go ahead and do that. But what happens if you decide that, I don't want to do that. I want to travel the world and take my message around the globe. Have a plan. That's going to take money, especially if you're a working stiff, so to speak, and you're working 40 to 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
So be realistic, be honest, and look for good support for yourself. Get educated. But, having financial literacy is one step in the responsibility, account. And once you know what you're doing and why you're doing it, it makes it easier to do and you feel better. It builds your financial confidence. So, but only, besides the big categories of spending and saving, only we know what we're going to do with our money and what we need to do with our money, besides the basics.
Yeah.
So does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it also makes sense to ask, what goes first? I mean, it's like when I've worked with you around finances, like, well, where are you at?
Yeah. You have to be honest. I mean, there's certain tools that I love. I hate to say it, but a budget is a necessary thing. And my favorite tool of all time is you need a budget, because it really puts the power in your hands with the money that you have. And once you realize that you can be powerful with what you've got now, all of a sudden your lack winds up not being lack anymore. That's the other thing. If you're constantly standing in lack, I don't have enough for this, I want to do that, and I can't. You're going to be there. You've got to change your mindset. And when the money comes in, look at it realistically. I have this much money. What do I want? And what do I need to do with this? And then what do I want to do with what's left? And then fill your heart's desire with that money.
Yeah. You tell a great story in the book. I remember when I heard the story, I was like, oh, Renée, we have to use this in the book because it's so good. The story of the brooch.
Oh, my brooch.
I feel like it's just the best way to communicate the way. So I would love it if you would share that story, because we all have those things, right? Those things that we walk by the window and we're like, oh, I can't do that right now. Or I shouldn't, or there's no way. And you figured out a way. And so I feel like that's a really good way.
Yeah. Well, back in the day, I was in my, mid-20s, working in the finance district of Los Angeles. And I used to walk across the street to go to the mall to have lunch. And I'd walk through a department store's jewelry section to get to my little lunch spot. And I don't know what happened that day, except for this brooch showed up. It had so many beautiful little crystals in it. It lit up the room. It sparkled the whole room. And I was mesmerized by it. I was just walking around the case looking at this brooch. It captured me. I got swept off my feet by a brooch. And finally the girl says, don't you want to look at it? And I'm like, oh, no, I can't. Now, mind you, what you don't know is I had my week's paycheck just cashed in my pocket. I knew exactly how much money I had for my groceries this week and how much I had for the car to get over the hill, because I lived in the valley and obviously the district was in, LA City proper. So I knew exactly how much money I had. And she goes, well, I'm going to take it out because you need to see this. It has you written all over it. And she takes it out and she holds it up to me. And I knew right then and there, I told her I can't do it. But as I'm saying I can't, I'm calculating in my mind, okay, she just told me it's $62.24. I remember it wasn't $63, but I had $79 in my pocket. So I knew how much it cost me to fill up my little car to get to work And I knew that I would have like $12 for 2 weeks to eat, which was, normally I had 50, I had 25 a week. I ate spaghetti, beans, and eggs with oil and spices and butter, but that was it. I ate those 3 things while I wore my brooch. I wore my brooch on my pajamas while I ate dinner. I wore that brooch 24 hours a day except for to sleep, and it was right on my bedside table, so the first thing I saw when I woke up was my brooch. I swear, it was the best thing I still have that brooch. It's on, it's this brooch. Can you see?
We decided to use it.
Oh my God, can you see it? Oh wait, here, maybe that's better. It's that brooch.
Yeah.
I still have it. I still wear it. I still love it. Sometimes I do still put it out on my bedside table because that's me.
Mm-hmm.
I had to have it, and it was worth the sacrifice. So if you want something, go get it, because if you don't, you'll regret it. And I didn't do that for a lot of things, but for that is a treasure.
Yeah. Yeah. What about the Calphalon set?
From the sublime to the ridiculous, huh? Okay.
We need
all right.
examples, to be inspired, to see ourselves. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm in a divorce, boo hiss. And of course, he kept all my kitchenware. Being a foodie, a chef, a lover of food, and a hostess, all of that, he essentially chopped me at the knees. But I was going to go and do him one better and go and get a whole new set. I was happy. So at the time, again, Macy's. What is with it with Macy's? So Macy's is there, and I park at the parking thing because I'm going through Macy's to get to Mervyn's. Remember Mervyn's? Okay, that's where I was going to go get my cookware. But no, Macy's has a plan for me. They have a Calphalon representative there cooking anything and everything on every utensil known to man. And I'm just falling in love with this man. I'm just like, not with the man, but with the stuff. It's just like, I got to have that. Oh my gosh, yes, and I got to have that. I have nothing. And it's dawning on me, I don't have that anymore. Oh my word. Well, like $1,100 later, I couldn't even get all the stuff in my car. It was like too much to put in my car. Talk about embarrassment. And then on top of it, it's like, I didn't have that kind of money. I had to go get a second job to go pay all that stuff off. But you know what? I still have it today. I could go get it for you right now. So I worked 7 days a week, sometimes double shifts to pay for that stuff. But like I said, I still have it and I love it. I look at it and it's like, don't let your dream run away with your credit card. Because that was not fun for a while. I was too busy to use it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I use it like a crazy person now.
Yeah.
The Calphalon, what is it? Catastrophe. That's what we called it.
Oh my God, I laughed so hard while I was editing that part of the book.
Okay, future writers out there, I wrote that story for Amanda in the passenger seat of my car while my husband was driving me to Pasadena. Remember that? I was like, are you kidding? It's holiday weekend. It was Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Yeah. And we didn't have a lot of time because we were running at that deadline for March. And
oh my God, yeah. I was just like,
okay. So good. You nailed it.
Yes, I knew exactly what the story was. Oh my God.
I was like, Renee, is there a story where you just like massively failed? Because I feel like the readers really need to understand that you're not perfect. And she was like, I'll get it to you in 20 minutes.
So not bulletproof, but so much stronger for it. Let me tell you, these lessons are ones that you really don't want to repeat twice. And I'll admit, I have put myself in credit card hell. I'm just like anybody else. And I did it over, believe it or not, programs.
Yeah.
Figure.
Yeah.
So yeah, word.
Right. Well, because, with pans, you're promised good food. With programs, the promises sound different. They're like, you'll make your money back and you'll get to 6 figures.
That was my favorite
promises are different. So it's like, it doesn't feel like it's such a big risk. So, and I paid into big programs, and I don't think there's one that I paid into that I didn't get something really important out of, right?
True.
But
I'm not saying I was rooked, because I wasn't rooked.
Yeah. Yeah. I also didn't get back what I was told I would get back,
Right.
or for the reasons I did. I mean, there was one I remember. There was one I went to, and we built this perfect plan, and then I went home, and I realized, you know, this isn't going to work. My clients are actually telling me they need this program. And so we did that big, huge, big, huge event, big production program. I tripled my revenue, and my coach was like, hey, good job. And I was like, I didn't use one little bit of that plan. This was all listening to my gut, listening to
Yeah.
my clients, listening to that feedback. So, but I watched, after you finished the book and you went and you were pursuing this brand, and that's one of the pieces that I really want to share with the audience today is like, what has that journey been like? Because you were out there, you got certified in a neurolinguistic,
Yeah. NLP.
right, for the wealthy mind, and
Yeah.
all these
And
amazing things.
yeah. It's kind of interesting because I'm at the point now where I'm really asking myself, what is it I want and what makes me feel good and what do I want more of? And I just really got to the point where I didn't want my finance business anymore, which kind of was shocking to me, and that took 3 years to, digest. I'm like, what? You don't want to do this anymore? How can that be? You've worked so hard. But at the same time, it didn't mean that I didn't want to get my message out there, because I really resonate with the wealthy mind. And that's really where I shine. And in my own heart, I shine. I feel the best. And all the trappings of doing all this stuff because I'm supposed to, because I'm a powerful businesswoman, all that, it felt like too many clothes. It's like when you're overdressed and you're dressed in layers because it's going to get, warmer later. That moment where you're like, you know what, now's the time. I just got to take this stuff off. That's where I was at. And, now I consider myself retired, from my wealthy, my wealth management business. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not advising. I'm not charging people, fees for advice. But I do want to, get to the point where I'm doing my wealthy mind presentations again. So that's where I'm at right now. That, when am I going to set a date? Come on, set a date. I'm thinking I'm going to set it for, I don't know, the last weekend in September. Here we go. There you go. Last weekend in September. But in the meantime, I have a little job at a grocery store where I'm a cashier, and I get to shine my light and touch people's lives and make them happy, and just, let them know that whatever's going on right now is going on, and all that matters is that we're fine. We're good, right? We're good. Let's have a great day and know that everything we have, we've got right with us right now.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, and I remember listening to you just like, what if, and I had those moments too, when I spent 6 years getting ready to become a teacher and then got into the system for 3 months and went, I'm not going to survive this. And I remember how crushed and lost I felt like, but I've spent all of this time and all my resources with this trajectory. How do I just walk away? And that was the thing. I remember Ryan saying, babe, why would you do something you hate?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, why would I?
Yeah.
But
That's really it.
how do you move on from that? Like, what was your process for kind of releasing that and coming to peace with it? Because I mean, I spent 6 years, but you had decades in finance. Like that was no small shift for you.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It was a huge shift. It was at one point kind of cataclysmic. I sort of, once I really accept the fact that I don't want this. I mean, I'd done, I made it very clear to myself, I don't want this anymore. I'm like, okay, then why aren't you accepting it? What is the scary part? And then I thought, this is when I started dealing with guilt and shame. I spent all this money, blah, 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 blah. The only thing I'm really proud of out of all my licensing and everything is my CFP. So I'm not letting that go. They have a category for people that are, not practicing anymore. And I intend to maintain my title. That's one of them. That is the peak of my professional career. But the rest of it is like the shame of, you know, there are actually not so many, you know, there are a handful of people who are not nice. And, you know, those people I was like, oh, they're going to rise up and say these things and hurt me. And no, that hasn't happened. And when I did have an issue where someone came to me and I was just like, you're so far off and out of line, because I was being true to myself. It made it easier. It made me realize feeling good and feeling confident in where I stand now is more important than all of this supposed to and all these poser roles. Because I really began to feel insincere, because it's like, I don't want to do this. This is what I'm good at. This is what everybody knows me at, but I don't want to do this anymore. Once I dropped that poser and started dealing with, why do I feel ashamed? I shouldn't feel ashamed. These people are, you know, are mean people. Why do I care what mean people think? So things like that I started processing with and realizing, no, I'm doing what's going to make me happy. And that stupid little job makes me so happy. I come home totally fulfilled. You know, I have little people that stand in my line to talk to me. It's awesome. And then I get to go home and work on my projects. Mm-hmm. It's the best.
Yeah.
It is the best.
Oh my God. I remember getting texts from you like the first few days of working there, and you were just like, I get to play with food today, and I get to be, you know, make people smile. Like, it was just this, there was just all these parts of you that I saw as we were hanging out as friends and as in our sisterhood, like all this part that didn't get to show up.
Yeah.
You were doing this over here, and it was like, it just got let loose. I mean,
okay, so St. Patrick's Day wasn't that long ago. I sold 344 loaves of Irish soda bread. I mean, that was my demo. I'm sure people walk by and pick it up on their own, but the store sold 344 loaves that day. We're tiny, right? The next store that's huge sold 202. So they're like, oh, Renee, you're a salesperson. I'm like, no, I just love food. But I got to talk to all these people and, you know, tell them, you know, everybody's Irish on Saturday. You need some bread. Boom. It was so fun. It was,
yeah.
And it truly feeds who I am. And then, you know, I do a demo like once every 2 weeks. So I get that itch out of my system. And then the rest of the time I just get to touch people and make sure that they're happier leaving my check stand than when they first arrived. And that's it. I've made my difference.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And I don't have to like run a whole business to have it. Yeah.
It's true. Like, let's be honest, right? I mean, we want to go change the world. And in order to do it in a business, it is not just the message. It is like, I don't know how often I've sent, even, you know, Vaughn, my bookkeeper, I've sent her text being like, where was the fine print in this contract? Go change the world. Oh, by the way, you have to be a CEO. Oh, there's all of these details that are just, you know, and it gets really crazy making. And if it's not what you are really wanting to do, I love that there are people like you sharing your story and saying, go do the thing that you really want to do. Like,
because we only get one life.
Mm-hmm.
We only get one life. And you might as well, you know, be happy. I mean, truly, that's what we're here for. It took me, you know, having a head-on collision with that Nissan Sentra to really get put back on my heels far enough to reassess all of these lessons that I'd been taught. And then in the end to find out that really it's all basically really all about me, which sounds very selfish, but if I'm happy, everybody else is happy too. And I think that's a lesson we all need to learn.
Yeah.
Early.
Yeah.
And you know what? I look at my book and I think I'm not out there hawking it all over the place. You know, it's fine. The lesson, the journey of producing that thing was worth it just to look at it. I'm like, yeah, I did that. Wow. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And it will continue helping people forever because you took the time, you put it down. You know, I think that's one of the beautiful things about writing is that it does kind of complete something. Like, it doesn't make you feel like, oh, I have this thing in me and the only way for me to give it to the world is for me to be in front of a classroom or on a stage or like, no, it's a book.
Yeah.
It's out there. It can help people, you know, if you put it in the right channels and do whatever you want to do in the way of marketing it or funneling it into other people's whatever. I mean, there's so many options, and yet now you can let that help people. You go touch other people's lives and with something else that you really love.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like it's escape, because it isn't. I mean, every day I wake up with the same issues we all do. What am I doing today, and how am I going to get it all done in the time I've got? But at least I take time out to do things that make me happy. Like, I had a choice to eat breakfast before this or make toast and have this. And so we know what I went with, because that would make me happy. If I made breakfast, I'd be like, okay, yeah, I did the right thing, but I really want my coffee. So, those little things go so far. That's it. And when it comes to getting our message out there, how do we feel the most comfortable getting our message out there? Do we really need a stage? What is your stage? Your stage could be, for me, it's my check stand. Mm-hmm. It's where I am in life. It's like, oh, you need help? I can help you. Yeah. And if I can't, I'll find someone who can. I mean, isn't that what we're here for?
For sure. For sure. And we all have, like these honest limitations. We can break through barriers, but I remember you were like, look, the real honest truth is there was a brain injury here, and it makes it really hard for me to do this, this, and this, and these are the things required for a CEO. So let's be honest about where I'm at right now. And I just love that. Get real about the reality right now. What are the real limitations? Sure, if it's fear, go and take some action, get over it. But, if there are real limitations, be honest and then figure out what makes you happy inside of that. And there's this whole world that opened up for you when you were like, oh, I could just let that go.
Yeah. My mom told me years ago about a scene from a movie called The Mission, where at the very end, this guy just decides to drop the load and he's free. And many times I think I need to watch the film so I can understand this in its true context. But at the same time, the metaphor of carrying around baggage, why am I doing that? What's it getting me, or what's it getting somebody else? I mean, that's really, we got to let that stuff go. It just doesn't make sense. And then what made it easier, I should say, because it wasn't easy at all, but what made it easier to make that connection or create the disconnect between being a CEO is I really didn't want it. Once I really asked myself what I wanted, I didn't want that anymore. And once I was truthful with that, then I was like, well, if I don't want it, I'm not doing it.
Right.
But I couldn't bring myself to admit that I didn't want it, because I'd spent all this money. Everybody knew me. I was going to be considered a failure or a poor victim of it. You're struggling with your TBI. No, I'm not struggling with my TBI. I'm freaking different. I'm not the same person I was. And no, I don't feel guilty or ashamed of it anymore. There are people who tried to keep me down, ones that were trying to compete with me in the first place. Now are trying to keep me down with stories like that. I'm like, no, that's your story. That's to keep you ahead in your life. If that's what you need to tell yourself, you go tell yourself that. But I'm all about just being the best I can be, being the best person, being the best wife, being the best friend, being the best sister, the best mom, whatever. Because sometimes I got to be moms to people who don't have their moms there. That's what I do a lot in the check stand. I'm the mom. It feels good sometimes.
Yep. I'm sure.
So, yeah, I got a little emotional there, but yeah, I feel that's truly how I feel. I had to, have that conversation about the guilt and the shame, and I address it head on now. And James taught me a lot about, what am I feeling now? Is this physical or is this emotional? And if it's an emotional pain, it should get out. Let's deal with it and get over it and get on with it.
Yeah.
So.
Good. I just am so grateful that you're happy to share this story and happy to hopefully help some people relax, it's okay. Go do the things that you want to do. And if it's not this plan, it's not this thing that you spend a ton of money on or tons of years getting credentials in or whatever, it's not worth your happiness or your joy or your health, right? I mean, I feel like I've watched even your vitality go through the roof since you made all of these changes. Like it was like a heavy weight.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was totally lost. I called it the marshmallow cream years
Yeah.
because I couldn't see through it and I couldn't walk through it. I couldn't run. I was just like in this sticky goo that every move I made, I was being resisted. And I mean, kudos to my husband for sticking with me, because there was times when he was like, I did not sign up for this. I was like, no, you didn't. And okay, whatever. Because that's really where I was at. I was so overwhelmed with absolutely everything. But like I said, just coming, what makes me happy? What makes me happy? Making other people happy. Okay. And food. And that's how I wound up at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Literally. I was like, food and people. Okay. You find them there. Let's go there. And it wasn't easy. I had to find my spot, but when I did, oh my word. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff.
I can't believe they pay me for it sometimes. I'm like, this is the stupidest thing ever. It's a riot. I love it.
Oh, that's so good. I love it.
So they're not, needless to say, there's another book coming out. So I don't want to say the title yet because it's such a great title.
It is such a good title.
Yeah, it. But yeah, I mean, they always say everyone has a book in them. You know what? We've got a ton of books. Whatever wisdom and lessons we're learning, if we can share them, let's share them. Especially if it makes us all realize that we're all really just the same, just different.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So Renee, what do you do? How do you stay in your center? Like, I feel like I've watched you go on this journey of being really kind of disconnected from that heart and soul piece all the way down to this place where you're just like, screw all this. I'm like, I'm doing what I want. Like, what do you do to stay there in that place and stay mindful of you and what you want?
I have rituals. Like I have a morning ritual and I have an evening ritual. And those are what keep me grounded, to be really honest. I mean, I have to sleep because of the TBI. If I don't sleep, then I'm turning left when I think I'm turning right. And that's not good. So that's how the ritual was actually established, was, as part of my defense against my injuries. But I've healed from those, and I still love this regime because it does keep me centered. I have my Calm app, Calm.
Mm-hmm.
I live by that thing. If I have to drive somewhere, because, you can imagine after being in a head-on collision, driving can be very anxiety-producing. When I get where I'm going, I just turn that on for 2 or 3 minutes and get regrounded and refocused as to what it was what feeling I want to have. I want to feel that happy feeling when I walk in and just be relaxed. So I use that to manage in 2 and 3 minute segments during the day. But at night, I use the sleep app or the sleep stories to help me sleep. And then in the morning, I have my rituals. I need my cappuccino. Not so much because I need the caffeine, but I need the ritual of it to calm myself and to honor myself in the fact that I am here and I'm going to be making decisions today that benefit not just me, but the people I love and those around me. So I need to be sure-footed. So
it's literally filling your cup. For me, it's like that happened this weekend. I was, so off kilter because they woke up too early. Like I slept in a little too late and they woke up too early. And all day I just felt like, dang, my little time that's just mine to fill me up. It just,
I hear you. Sometimes my husband will come home early from work to work at the home office, and I'll just be like, what? Why? Just can't you go to your other office? Because it ruins my little ritual of I have my silence and I do my thing. But yeah, and then I also have I do my Jesus calling. That's my morning when I first wake up. That's what grounds me to know that there's something larger than me, my Savior, which I can't live without that. But yeah, that's it. I just stay focused. I can't afford to I know what it feels like to fly off the handle, and I don't like that feeling. So I do what I can to combat it.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you. And before we go, I have some of my rapid fire questions because it's all about resources for people. So what was the first book or message that really changed your life?
I want to say, if we're talking about decisions of like emotional decisions, the 4 agreements. That was, I remember reading one line in it. I put the book down and was on a high for like 2 weeks because I realized all this stuff I'd been holding had nothing to do with me. And all of a sudden I understood Blame It on the Rain, which is one of my favorite songs by Milli Vanilli. But I used to play that for my financial clients. I'm like, okay, you know what? Just blame it on the rain and get over it, because all this guilt and stuff is so useless. You know, this book helped me solidify that in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good one.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite book of all time?
A Woman of Independent Means by Elizabeth Forsyth Haley.
Shocking.
No, I read this when I was 16.
Wow.
It totally, I don't want to say it changed my life. It just taught me the benefits of being direct, because I, you know, came from a very dysfunctional family. Like I'm alone with that one. But this was awesome, and it was not free of struggle. It was painful, but it's this woman's writings, and it's just her letters to everyone. And when I read it, I thought, I want to be a woman like her. Between her and my mother, I've got it made. So, yeah, this one, so good, so good. Yes. What else?
Who is your favorite messenger and why?
Golly. It's hard to choose because I have so many. And if you looked at my library, you would see that there are people who I just absorb. Once I find them, I just suck up everything that they've written. My favorite messenger, I can't pick one. To say God would be, you know, ridiculous, but not really. I mean, because this little book here saves me. But then when I stop and think about who I've used and all of that, whatnot, I would say I can't pick one. I want to rattle off a bunch.
Okay, give me 2.
Okay, Ursula for one.
Oh, yeah.
Menches, okay, for one, definitely, because her one great goal and all her sales stuff, you know.
Life-changing.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that one great goal is awesome. And then also, oh God, what's his name? Brain injury, sorry, on the spot. But Think and Grow Rich guy, Napoleon Hill.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. I'm like, hello. But him, I love him. And then C.S. Lewis.
Oh, yeah.
Gotta get that. And then, you know, if we're going to get really like down to really transfer, like fun stuff, but Agatha Christie. There you go. Those are my peeps.
I love it.
Give me a Miss Marple or a Poirot story and I'll just read it till, you know, the pages fall out of the book. Yeah. Oh my God. Okay.
Oh God.
What else? Anything?
How can our audience connect with you if they have questions about? We'll put the links up for your book. But how would you like them to reach out to you?
They can find me on my Facebook page. That's really the best way to go. Right now, my website's down, so meet me on the Facebook page, Money Savvy Woman, and that's where I'll be.
Awesome.
That's where you can connect with me there. Like I said, I've taken kind of a back seat, so if I don't get back to you in the, a couple hours, forgive me. I might not check it for till the next day. I usually look once a day. Now I have a life. I mean, let me just say, ladies and gentlemen, there was a time when I was literally chained to my laptop because of social media. I mean, if you look at my website, my Facebook page, business page, you'll see that I was posting 15 times a day. No, I don't do that anymore. In fact, I'm at that stage where I'm wondering, do I even really want to keep it, especially with all this stuff going on about what our information is really being, used for. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's where you can reach me there, and I'll find you because I get notifications. So thanks for that.
Renée, thanks so much for spending some of your time with me and for being part of my journey of learning how to do this messenger guide thing. in an effective way. You taught me a lot through that process. And so I'm just really grateful to have you in my life. And I'm really, really grateful that I got to share you with my audience today. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome anytime. And, you know, your people can get a hold of you, and you can connect me via, you know,
Yes,
text and all that, why not as well. So it's always a pleasure, Amanda. I love you.
love you too.
All right, my friends.
All right.
Anything else?
Thank you, listeners, for joining us. I'd love to hear from you, what you're taking away from today's conversation. And I also want to thank our sponsor, sitechisel.com, and remind you that they're offering a 10% discount to my listeners with the code MINDFUL10. So that is a wrap, and I'll see you next time.